So we'll look at the structure of management of PPPs in the country. So at the very top, we have an organ called PPP committee. So this is made up of top bureaucrats in the country, including the Attorney General, the CS of the National Treasury. When we used to have devolution, also the CS of devolution would sit there, the CS of Ministry of Lands, CS of Ministry of Lands, together with the director of this PPP unit. Below here, there is a PPP unit. This is a unit arbitration. This is the unit that does. So that's the unit that recommends or any project to be approved by the committee. So the committee is the top organ. The PPP unit is at the treasury with the director. So the PPP unit recommends or facilitates the work of the committee. Even though the committee is the top organ, then you have what you call PPP nodes. So the nodes are teams that are formed by the contracting authority, the public contracting authority, whether it's a ministry, a county, wherever the contract is taking place, that's where you find that team. It's called a PPP node. But I'll not discuss all of them. I'll discuss PPP unit because it's the most important. It's a department at the treasury. So next subheading you put establishment of the PPP unit, establishment of the PPP unit, establishment of the PPP unit, establishment of the PPP unit at the National Treasury, establishment of the PPP unit at the National Treasury, establishment of the PPP unit at the National Treasury. Then you say the PPP unit is established. The PPP unit is established. The PPP unit is established as a special purpose unit. The PPP unit is established as a special purpose unit. As a special purpose unit within the National Treasury. The PPP unit is established as a special purpose unit within the National Treasury. Its focus is to serve as the secretariat or secretariat. Its focus is to serve as the secretariat. Its focus is to serve as the secretariat and technical arm of the PPP committee, 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 which is mandated with the assessment and approval, which is mandated with the assessment and approval of PPP projects, which is mandated with the assessment and approval of PPP projects, which is mandated with the assessment and approval of PPP projects in the country, which is mandated with the assessment and approval of PPP projects in the country. When you say the PPP unit consists of the following. The PPP unit consists of the following. The PPP unit consists of the following. A director. A director. And B, such staff as the CS may. Such staff as the CS may. Such staff as the CS may, in consultation with the director, Such staff as the CS may, in consultation with the director, such staff as the CS may, in consultation with the director, consider necessary for the performance, consider necessary for the performance, consider necessary for the performance, consider necessary for the performance of the functions of the PPP unit. Consider necessary for the performance of the functions of the PPP unit. Next point, the director and staff of the PPP unit, the director and staff of the PPP unit, the director and staff of the PPP unit shall be competitively recruited. The director and staff of the PPP unit shall be competitively recruited, and appointed on such terms, and appointed on such terms and conditions, and appointed on such terms and conditions, and appointed on such terms and conditions as the CS, and appointed on such terms and conditions as the CS, such terms and conditions as the CS in consultation, as the CS in consultation, as the CS in consultation, as the CS in consultation with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, as the CS in consultation with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, as the CS in consultation with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, establishment of PPP units. Okay. On such terms and conditions as the CS in consultation with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission may determine. On such terms and conditions as the CS in consultation with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission may determine. Next are the functions of the PPP unit. Functions of the PPP unit. Functions of PPP unit. Functions of the PPP unit. Functions of PPP unit. Number one, to serve as a resource center. To serve as a resource center. To serve as a resource center on matters. To serve as a resource center on matters relating to PPPs. To serve as a resource center on matters relating to PPPs. To serve as a resource center on matters relating to PPPs. Number two, to conduct civic education. To conduct civic education. To conduct civic education in order to promote the awareness. To conduct civic education in order to promote the awareness and understanding. To conduct civic education in order to promote the awareness and understanding of the PPP process, awareness and understanding of the PPP process, among the stakeholders, Number three, to provide capacity building, to provide capacity building to, and advise to provide capacity building to and advise contracting authorities to provide capacity building to and advise contracting authorities to provide capacity building to and advise contracting authorities or other parties involved in the planning coordinating, undertaking or monitoring of PPP projects, Number 4, to rate, compile, and maintain an inventory. On PPP projects. To rate, compile, and maintain an inventory on PPP projects. To rate, compile, and maintain an inventory on PPP projects that are highly rated, and which are likely to attract private sector investment, Number 5, to develop an open, transparent, efficient, and equitable process. To develop an open, transparent, efficient, and equitable process for managing. To develop an open, transparent, efficient, and equitable process for managing the identification, screening, prioritization, implementation and monitoring of projects. Number 6, to conduct research. And gap analysis. To conduct research and gap analysis to ensure continuous performance improvement. To conduct research and gap analysis to ensure continuous performance improvement. In the implementation of PPPs. Number 7, to collate, analyze, and disseminate information. To collate, analyze, and disseminate information. Including data on the contingent liabilities. Including data on the contingent liabilities of the government. including data on the contingent liabilities of the government in relation to any project, in relation to any project, in relation to any project. And finally, to make recommendations, on the approval or rejection, to make recommendations on the approval or rejection of projects, to make recommendations on the approval or rejection of projects, to make recommendations on the approval or rejection of projects prior to submission to the PPP committee, prior to submission to the PPP committee, prior to submission to the PPP committee for approval, prior to submission to the PPP committee for approval, prior to submission to the PPP committee for approval. Next, we look at composition and role. Composition and role of PPP committee. Composition and role of PPP committee. Composition and role of the PPP committee. Sorry, not PPP committee, but petition committee. Of petition committee. Petition. Composition and role of the petition committee. So there is a body like a tribunal that is formed for purposes of listening to petitions. It has 5 members. It has a chairperson, and some or point 1. So point 1 under function is to serve as a resource center, on matters, relating to PPPs, to serve as a resource center on matters relating to PPPs. Then point 4 is to rate, compile, and maintain an inventory. To rate, compile, and maintain an inventory of PPP projects. To rate, compile, and maintain an inventory of PPP projects. That are highly rated. Of PPP projects that are highly rated and which are likely to attract private sector investment. So we look at composition and role of the petition committee. So there is a body with a chairperson. The chairperson should qualify to be a judge of the High Court. Should be a person who is experienced and who can qualify to be a judge. Then you have 4 other members who have experience and who can advise on these matters, because it will be a tribunal to hear about complaints on matters relating to procurement of PPP contracts or projects. Then also the director of the PPP unit. The director of the PPP unit will also be a member. The director of the PPP unit we talked about will also be a member. Now, those who serve in the tribunal will serve for a period of 3 years. Now, the 3 years is renewable just once, So if you serve for one term of 3 years, it's renewed once, and then that's the end, somebody else is appointed. You asked to how many pages, for example, do you estimate from the beginning? So it's 1 page. If you have to leave space, you can leave 1 page. So composition and role of the PPP petition committee. Composition and role of the PPP petition committee. Then you say the PPP Act. The PPP Act 2013. The PPP Act 2013. The PPP Act 2013 has established the PPP Act 2013 has established the PPP Act 2013 has established a petition committee. The PPP Act 2013 has established a petition committee, to receive and resolve all complaints, relating to the procurement, of PPP projects, in Kenya. When you say as a tribunal, the PPP committee, is bound, to observe the rules. The petition committee is bound to observe the rules of natural justice. As a tribunal, the petition committee is bound to observe the rules of natural justice with a view to promoting procedural fairness, with a view to promoting procedural fairness and transparency, as well as the broad objectives of the Constitution. New paragraph. The petition committee shall consider all petitions. The petition committee shall consider all petitions and complaints. The petition committee shall consider all petitions and complaints submitted. The petition committee shall consider all petitions and complaints submitted by a private party. The petition committee shall consider all petitions and complaints submitted by a private party. During the process of tendering. And entering into a project agreement. During the process of tendering and entering into a project agreement. Under the PPP Act. During the process of tendering and entering into a project agreement under the PPP Act. Then you say the petition committee shall consist of 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 A, the chairperson. The chairperson who shall be a person qualified. The chairperson who shall be a person qualified for appointment. The chairperson who shall be a person qualified for appointment as a judge. The chairperson who shall be a person qualified for appointment as a judge of the High Court. The chairperson who shall be a person qualified for appointment as a judge of the High Court. As a judge of the High Court of Kenya. B, four other persons with such knowledge. Four other persons with such knowledge and experience. Four other persons with such knowledge and experience as the CS. Four other persons with such knowledge and experience as the CS shall in consultation. Four other persons with such knowledge and experience as the CS shall in consultation with the PPP unit. Consider appropriate and see the director of the PPP unit. The director of the PPP unit. And finally, a new paragraph, we say the members of the petition committee shall hold office for a term. The members of the petition committee shall hold office for a term of 3 years. The members of the petition committee shall hold office for a term of 3 years and are eligible for reappointment. For one further term. And the last thing we look at under PPPs, we call it Project Facilitation Fund. So Project Facilitation Fund, or PFF. Project Facilitation Fund, or PFF. So this fund is established at the National Treasury and is meant to assist contracting authorities at the initial stages of their contracts, maybe doing feasibility study or doing a project evaluation or the concept stage, conceptualization of the project, or even paying a consultant. For those, for those contracting authorities that don't have technical people. You could have a county that does not have, like a PPP node is made up of engineers, people qualified in finance, people qualified in procurement. There are some counties that may lack those, and they may request the PPP committee to approve that the project facilitation fund be used to pay a consultant, you know? So the fund could be used for that purpose. Normally, questions on the PFF will ask you two things. It will ask you what are the source of funds, or monies to be put in the PFF. Then, how are the funds utilized? For what purpose? Normally, those are the two areas the exam will ask you about concerning the project facilitation fund. So we say the PPP Act 2013, the PPP Act 2013, the PPP Act 2013 provides for the establishment, the PPP Act 2013 provides for the establishment of the Project Facilitation Fund, provides for the establishment of the Project Facilitation Fund, provides for the establishment of the Project Facilitation Fund, or in brackets PFF, Project Facilitation Fund in brackets PFF, into which the following monies are paid, into which the following monies are paid, into which the following monies are paid, into which the following monies are paid. A, grants and donations, grants and donations, grants and donations. B, such levies or tariffs, such levies or tariffs, such levies or tariffs as may be imposed on a project. Such levies or tariffs as may be imposed on a project. Such levies or tariffs as may be imposed on a project. C, success fees paid by a project company. Success fees paid by a project company. Success fees paid by a project company to the PPP unit. Success fees paid by a project company to the PPP unit. Then D, appropriations in aid. Appropriations in aid. Appropriations in aid. So these are internally generated monies. And then E, monies from any source approved. Monies from any source approved. Monies from any source approved by the National Treasury. Monies from any source approved by the National Treasury. The new paragraph you say, the monies received into the fund, the monies received into the fund shall be applied. The monies received into the fund shall be applied to, the monies received into the fund shall be applied to, the monies received into the fund shall be applied to A, support contracting authorities. Support contracting authorities. Support contracting authorities in the preparation phase with PH. Support the contracting authorities in the preparation phase of a project. Support contracting authorities in the preparation phase of a project. Comma, the tendering process, the tendering process, the tendering process, and the project appraisal. The tendering process and project appraisal, the tendering process and project appraisal. B, support the activities of the PPP unit. Support the activities of the PPP unit. Support the activities of the PPP unit. C, extend the viability gap finance. Extend the viability gap finance to projects. Extend the viability gap finance to projects that are desirable. Extend the viability gap finance to projects that are desirable. Extend the viability gap finance to projects that are desirable. To projects that are desirable but cannot be implemented. But cannot be implemented. But cannot be implemented in the absence of financial support, but cannot be implemented in the absence of financial support, but cannot be implemented in the absence of financial support from the government, in the absence of financial support from the government. In D, provide a source of liquidity, provide a source of liquidity, provide a source of liquidity to meet any contingent liabilities, provide a source of liquidity to meet any contingent liabilities, provide a source of liquidity to meet any contingent liabilities arising from a project, provide a source of liquidity to meet any contingent liabilities arising from a project, and E, to settle the transaction advisors, to settle the transaction advisors, to settle the transaction advisors, retainer fees, to settle the transaction advisors, retainer fees. So that's it for public-private partnership. So we'll be looking at more when we look at questions. Yeah. So any question? So we look at the last topic. Maybe we'll mention it briefly, then we'll take a break. The last topic under public-private partnership is called public debt management. Public debt management. Public debt management. So we look at public debt management. This is our final topic in public finance. So public debt management. So first define public debt management, what this is about. So public debt management, you say debt management. Debt management refers to all actions. Debt management refers to all actions of the government. Debt management refers to all actions of the government, including the national treasury, and the central bank, including the national treasury and the central bank, which affect the composition, including the national treasury and the central bank, which affect the composition and level, of public debt in the country, which affect the composition and level of public debt in the country, So you say public debt can be defined as open quote, all financial obligations attendant to loans, raised or guaranteed, all financial obligations attendant to loans raised or guaranteed, attendant to loans raised or guaranteed, and securities issued, and securities issued or guaranteed, and securities issued or guaranteed, and securities issued or guaranteed by the national government, and securities issued or guaranteed by the national government, end of quote. Next, abetting establishment of debt management, public debt management office. Establishment of public debt management office. Establishment of public debt management office. So there is a very important office at the National Treasury that is independent and that purely deals with matters debt. So actually you can get a direct question asking you about the functions or the role of the public debt management office. So there's a whole department at the National Treasury that does nothing but debt, you know. So I know you get surprised when I tell you that, because I'm sure you're wondering, how come? And they left the debt to escalate to that level. There's a whole department of the National Treasury. But let me just show you a question, for example, on debt. Look at last sitting, August 2022, question 1B. August 2022, question 1B says, highlight two objectives of the Public Debt Management Office. So we'll be looking at the objectives of the Public Debt Management Office. And then most of the questions usually ask you about the functions. What are the functions of the Public Debt Management Office? Like, let me just show you. Most will ask you about functions. That's internal audit. Okay. Yes. Look at April 2022. April 2022, question 2B. April 2022, question 2B. April 2022, just the other sitting, question 2B. April 2022, question 2B. Says summarize 5 functions of the Public Debt Management Office. So they can ask you about objectives of the Debt Management Office. They can also ask you about the functions. So we look at those after the short break. So let's take a short break, then we look at those as we look at functions also. Okay. So we are doing public debt management. So you said it's establishment of public debt management office. We say there is established. There is established an office. There is established an office known as, there is established an office known as, there is established an office known as the Public Debt Management Office. There is established an office known as the Public Debt Management Office. There is established an office known as the Public Debt Management Office within the National Treasury. Within the National Treasury. Within the National Treasury. It is a fully fledged department. It is a fully fledged department. It is a fully fledged department. It is a fully fledged department referred to as. It is a fully fledged department referred to as the Directorate of Public Debt Management. It is a fully fledged department referred to as the Directorate of Public Debt Management. It is a fully fledged department referred to as the Directorate of Public Debt Management. It is headed by a Director General. It is headed by a Director General. It is headed by a Director General reporting to the Principal Secretary. It is headed by a Director General reporting to the Principal Secretary. Now we answer this question. Walikuwa wameuliza objectives of the Public Debt Management Office. That was last sitting, eh? Yes, last sitting, August 2022, question 1B. Nasema August 2022, question 1B. Nasema highlight. Nasema highlight two objectives of the Public Debt Management Office. So you say the objectives of the Public Debt Management Office include, the objectives of the Public Debt Management Office include, the objectives of the Public Debt Management Office include, A, to minimize the cost of public debt, to minimize the cost of public debt and borrowing, to minimize the cost of public debt and borrowing, to minimize the cost of public debt and borrowing over the long term, to minimize the cost of public debt and borrowing over the long term, taking account of risk, to minimize the cost of public debt and borrowing over the long term, taking account of risk, B, to promote the development of financial markets, for government debt securities, to promote the development of the financial market, for government debt securities, and C, to ensure the equitable sharing, of the benefits, and costs, of public debt, to ensure the equitable sharing of the benefits and costs of public debt, between the current and future generations. To ensure the equitable sharing of the benefits and costs of public debt between the current and future generations. The next are building functions of Public Debt Management Office. Functions of Public Debt Management Office. So we are answering April 2022, question 2B, functions of Public Debt Management Office. Number 1, to carry out the government's debt management policy. To carry out the government's debt management policy. To carry out the government's debt management policy of minimizing. To carry out the government's debt management policy of minimizing its financing costs. To carry out the government debt management policy of minimizing its financing costs. Number 2, maintaining a reliable database for all loans. Maintaining a reliable database for all loans taken by the national government. Maintaining a reliable database for all loans taken by the national government. County governments and their entities. Taken by the national government, county governments and their entities. Number 3, to prepare and update the annual, medium term, debt management strategy, to prepare and update the annual medium-term debt management strategy, to prepare and update the annual medium-term debt management strategy, including debt sustainability. Including debt sustainability analysis, including debt sustainability analysis, including debt sustainability analysis. 4, to prepare and implement, to prepare and implement, to prepare and implement the national government's borrowing plan, to prepare and implement the national government borrowing plan, to prepare and implement the national government borrowing plan, including servicing of outstanding debts, including servicing of outstanding debts, including servicing of outstanding debts. Number 5, acting as the principal, acting as the principal, acting as the principal, acting as the principal in the issuance of government debt, acting as the principal in the issuance of government debt securities, acting as the principal in the issuance of government debt securities on behalf of the National Treasury, on behalf of the National Treasury, on behalf of the National Treasury. 6, monitor and evaluate, monitor and evaluate, monitor and evaluate all borrowing and debt-related transactions, monitor and evaluate all borrowing and debt-related transactions, monitor and evaluate all borrowing and debt-related transactions. 7, to oversee the management of public debt, to oversee the management of public debt, to oversee the management of public debt and borrowing, to oversee the management of public debt and borrowing, as well as the issuance, of debt instruments, to oversee the management of public debt and borrowing, as well as the issuance of debt instruments, as well as the issuance of debt instruments in respect of the national government, in respect of the national government and county governments, in respect of the national government and county governments. 8, to effectively manage borrowing, to effectively manage borrowing by national government and county government, to effectively manage borrowing by the national government and county governments, and national government and county governments and their entities, and ensure that the cost of borrowing, is minimized, and ensure that the cost of borrowing is minimized, and ensure that the cost of borrowing is minimized, and ensure that the cost of borrowing is minimized. Lastly, 9, to ensure that the benefits, and burden of public debt, to ensure that the benefits and burden of public debt, to ensure that the benefits and burden of public debt are equitably shared, to ensure that the benefits and burden of public debt are equitably shared between the current and future generations, are equitably shared between the current and future generations, are equitably shared between the current and future generations. Lastly, we look at objectives of debt management. Objectives of debt management. objectives of debt management, objectives of debt management in the public sector, objectives of debt management in the public sector, objectives of debt management in the public sector. Well, the main objective of managing debt is to ensure that funding will be available to the government. You see, if you don't manage your debt well and you don't pay your debts, then funding may not be available. So the idea is to make sure whenever the government needs funding, it is available. The other objective is to ensure this debt is at the lowest costs and also the risk, to ensure that the risk is minimal and the debt is also sustainable. An amount that can be paid, an amount that is sustainable. So those are the main objectives of managing. So debt must be managed. You know, it's important that debt must be managed to ensure that the risk of debt is kept low, to ensure the cost of debt is kept as minimum as possible, and to ensure the government can access borrowing whenever they require. So objectives of debt management in the public sector. You see, the main objective of public debt management, the main objective of public debt management, the main objective of public debt management is to ensure that, the main objective of public debt management is to ensure that, the main objective of public debt management is to ensure that the government's financing needs, the main objective of public debt management is to ensure that the government's financing needs, and its payment obligations are met, The main objective of public debt management is to ensure that the government's financing needs and its payment obligations are met at the lowest possible cost. With a consistent and prudent degree of risk, Other objectives of debt management include A, to support the development of the domestic financial markets. B, to ensure the sustainability of the debt burden, and C, to minimize debt-related risks. So that completes the first part of our journey, public finance. So whenever we come to questions of public finance, we'll ensure we answer them just to keep us up to speed with matters of public finance. But now we want to turn to taxation. So let's introduce taxation by first defining a tax. So what's a tax? So taxation taxation. So definition of a tax. So we say a tax is a compulsory contribution. A tax is a compulsory contribution. A tax is a compulsory contribution made by a person. A tax is a compulsory contribution made by a person to the government. A tax is a compulsory contribution made by a person to the government to enable it to meet its public expenditure, for a common cause. To enable it to meet its public expenditure for a common cause. Next point you add and say, there is no direct reward. There is no direct reward or benefit. There is no direct reward or benefit. There is no direct reward or benefit for payment of tax. There is no direct reward or benefit for payment of tax. There is no direct reward or benefit for payment of tax. So a tax is a compulsory contribution. A tax is a compulsory contribution made by a person to the government. A tax is a compulsory contribution made by a person to the government to enable it to meet its public expenditure. To enable it to meet its public expenditure for a common cause. To enable it to meet its public expenditure for a common cause. So I want you to notice, we are not calling a tax a payment, even though you pay tax, but we're not calling it a payment because if you say a payment, then you expect something in return. So actually, they use a French term, they say there is no quid pro quo. You don't get proportionate benefits. So there are people who pay a lot in terms of tax, but they don't enjoy public services. So public services are found in public hospitals, public schools, a provision of national security. So there are people who pay lots of tax, but their kids are in international schools or outside this country. Okay? Then there is no direct reward for payment of tax. Then it's also important that we give some key characteristics of tax. So characteristics of tax. So this will distinguish tax from any other payments. Characteristics of tax. The first characteristic, tax is payable where there is an income. Only where there is an income. Eh? Tax is payable only where there is an income. Tax is payable only where there is an income. Tax is payable only where there is an income. The second characteristic, there is no direct reward. There is no direct reward or benefit. There is no direct reward or benefit. There is no direct reward or benefit for payment of tax. There is no direct reward or benefit for payment of tax. Then the last characteristic, there are penalties. There are penalties imposed. There are penalties imposed for non-compliance. There are penalties imposed for non-compliance. There are penalties imposed for non-compliance. So if you don't comply, you'll be penalized. The next we look at purposes of taxation. Why does the government impose taxes? Purposes of taxation. Purposes of taxation. So you say the government imposes taxes. The government imposes taxes for the following reasons. The government imposes taxes for the following reasons. One, to raise public revenue, in order to meet, public expenditure, for a common cause, So we might talk about other things, but the main reason for tax, it's the main source of revenue for any government. For example, is it last year? The KRA raised the highest tax ever. I think they raised around 2.1 billion, the highest ever. So tax is the main source. There could be borrowing, but borrowing is just to support taxation. So the main source of revenue for the government is taxation. So any taxes you might be asked about, whether it's corporation tax, the first purpose is usually to raise revenue. There could be other purposes, but that's the main purpose. Number two, for protection of the health of citizens, for protection of the health of citizens, then you say high customs duties are imposed. High customs duties are imposed on goods. High customs duties are imposed on goods that are considered to be harmful. High customs duties are imposed on goods that are considered to be harmful. High customs duties are imposed on goods that are considered to be harmful to the health of citizens, if consumed in large quantities, such as wines and spirits, beer and cigarettes. Okay, so I want you to understand the main objective of excise duty, because the main tax there is excise duty, which is levied on locally manufactured goods. The main purpose is not really to protect. The main purpose is to raise revenue, but indirectly, because prices of these goods will increase, people may not consume as much as they may want to, they may not afford them, or others will stop altogether. But there's a downside. There are those that are pushed into local rules, which are more damaging. You know, you've had just this week, there's a person who died after having consumed local brews somewhere. Others get blind, you know. This is because they cannot afford these regular ones, you know. But of course, the main objective is to raise revenue. Like just on October, this month on 1st, KRA has revised excise duty by 6.3%. 6.3% is the average rate of inflation that was there in 2021, 2022. So they've revised upwards. So there are 30 categories of goods whose prices must go. 30 categories, 30 different categories. But you can see, even when the government that came in saying, look, we want to reduce cost of living, they are silent. Why? It's a source of revenue. Where do you get revenue? If you tell care, share that revision, they will do it. But then the time you ask for money, they say, you told us to share. Now, if they go to IMF tells them, go and raise taxes from your people. Don't keep borrowing. The only way out to get out of borrowing is, so they are coming to reality for the first time. You know, when somebody else is sitting there, you think, why are these things going up? Now they are, you think they didn't know, they knew, but they realize there's very little you can do. You need to run, and to run, you need money. Where will the money come from? Those taxes. So KRA revised taxes without objection. 1st October, 30 categories of goods will go up, including mineral water, all juices, all manufactured goods, all cigarettes, all beer. But beer and cigarettes, you'd say, are luxuries. But there are many, many other goods that are not. As far as they're in a category where excise duty is levied, they'll go up. So protection is indirect, right? Number 3, protection of local industries. 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 Then you say high customs duties are imposed. High customs duties are imposed on imported goods. High customs duties are imposed on imported goods. High customs duties are imposed on imported goods that are considered to be harmful. High customs duties are imposed on imported goods. Oh, I'm reading something else. That on imported goods which are substandard. On imported goods which are substandard, and are available, which are substandard and which are also available locally, which are substandard and which are also available locally, to increase their prices, and reduce their demand. To increase their prices and reduce their demand. So, you know, you cannot tell importers, because it's a liberalized market. You cannot tell them, don't import tissue paper. You know, because Manu Chandari is making tissue. You can't tell them, no, you can't do that, because you'll bring problems with even other countries that export. So the clever way to do it is to raise taxes on them so that their prices are higher than local ones. Then let the consumer make a choice. Do I want to buy a tissue paper at 200 bob, or would I rather buy one at 60? So consumer anapiga hiyo hesabu ananunua 60. You don't need to force them. You don't need to. So you impose duty on them. So there are many, many imported products. They'll find local brands that are equally competitive. So the government collects tax on them, but ensures after the collection of tax, they are more expensive, so that a customer can choose the local brand. Then number 4, to encourage exportation. To encourage exportation, and hence the generation of foreign currency. To encourage exportation and hence the generation of foreign currency. To encourage exportation and hence the generation of foreign currency. Then you say, e.g., exports are zero rated for VAT purposes. 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 Hence, the VAT paid on purchases. Hence, the VAT paid on purchases of materials. The VAT paid on purchases of materials used for processing exports. Hence, the VAT paid on purchases of materials used for processing exports is refundable. So this is what happens. So to calculate VAT payable, we say VAT payable or refundable. VAT payable or refundable is output tax minus input tax. Okay? So for an exporter, they don't charge VAT. And it's deliberate. It's meant to ensure their prices remain affordable to our foreign customers. so that they can buy more exports. So total output tax, the VAT charge on exports is 0. So what they pay on their material, let's suppose it's 250,000. You can see it's going to be refundable, not payable. So it's only payable when the output tax is more than the input tax, but the output tax is 0. Now this is important. You see, if you're an exporter, you will sell your goods outside the country and you earn this country sterling, pounds, dollars, which we need so much. Which we need much. Why? Because the country is paying debt in foreign currency. The country is paying for crude oil in foreign currency. The country is paying for imports such as fertilizers and many other things in foreign currency, including inputs for industries. Like those who make cooking oil have to import crude palm oil from Malaysia, and it has to be paid in foreign currency. Now, that foreign currency must be available in our banks here. So where it will come from is mostly exportation, and sometimes, not sometimes, we've come to rely on remittances from diaspora. What Kenyans remit to their families. It's a lot. So central bank relies on it. That's why people in diaspora are so important. They were almost being given a ministry. They are being given a ministry because of their value. They bring so much. Even, you can see, even our girls who are going to Saudi Arabia and others, even though there are negatives coming, Saudi is almost second in remittances. No, it's third now. The first is US, then I think remittances from UK, then Saudi. How do you lock that door? How do you lock that door? It's a very big source of foreign currency. You know, we don't export much. So that is what is used by the central bank as a reserve. That's why this week or last week, the governor announced very proudly that we have sufficient reserves to sustain payments for the next 4.6 months. You know, in answer to the deputy president, who said, we have nothing. We don't have enough foreign currency. You know, we are broke. We can't even pay for it. The central bank, you know, one thing the deputy president does not know. If you are a leader, the markets respond to what you say. The stock exchange. If you say you are broke, it reflects on the stock exchange. So it's very, very important what you say. It's better you even keep quiet. Because you are, but he has not understood. Maybe he'll be told with time. So the central bank has to quickly give an assurance so that the markets don't go into a panic. The markets can go into a panic. Hey, we are trapped. It seems like, you see, banks may fail even to lend money to a manufacturer who depends on importation, because utatoa before currency ya kulipa. It's like you're about to close. So the central bank has to come out and say, no, it's not true. We have sufficient for the next 4.6 months. And that's what the CBK Act requires. It doesn't require that we hold so much. We only hold to last the next 4 to 6 months as we receive more foreign currency. So exports are very important. So if you want to get into any exportation business, you'll be encouraged. There'll be no VAT. While if you sell anything locally, you must pay, but an exporter will not pay. And it's deliberate because we need foreign exchange earnings. So that's number 4, encourage exportation. Number 5, to encourage savings for retirement. To encourage savings for retirement. To encourage savings for retirement. So there are 2 ways. The first way, A, you say as a contributor. As a contributor. As a contributor. So we have 2 sets of benefits. You have benefits when you're still working and strong, the way you are still working now. There's a benefit you can get as a contributor. Then there are benefits when you withdraw your cash. Let's start with this one. So the amount you decide to contribute will be deducted from your salary. To say if your salary is 25,000, you say less contribution to pension. So that, just as an example, if you're earning 25,000, so you say less 8,000. If I'm contributing 8,000 toward my pension, I'll be taxed only on 17,000. So it's treated as a allowable deduction, but there's a maximum. The maximum you can get per month is 20,000. So you can contribute as much as you wish. Now, it includes NSSF, but NSSF is very minimal. But just that NSSF can contribute 200 at all. By the time you retire, and you find the money, you know.
Where is the standard 200? Where can they like standard? You can add more, but the rate approach that is gets the interest is
very low.
Yeah, why can't they raise the interest so that
it attracts more people?
Yeah, can
maybe they'll think about that now that it's something in public debate.
Oh, it's
no, not really in a debate. People are talking about it. You know, people are already thinking in terms of what will happen when I retire. So, but a lot of people may not necessarily contribute to NSSF because they have schemes with their employers, have their own scheme. So actually, there are pension schemes that are better organized than NSSF. So the amount you contribute will be deducted from your salary. So you pay tax on the difference. So the benefit there is I've gotten away with some tax. I've paid tax on a lesser amount. Yet this is for my personal benefit. It goes to my savings. It's not for anybody. That's one. Then later when you retire, you have exempted amounts. If you paid once, it's called a lump sum. The first 600,000 will not be taxed. So you can only be taxed on anything above 600,000. For example, if you are paid once and your take home is 800,000, you'll be taxed on 200. The 600 will be exempted. Now, some people may choose not to be paid in lump sum. Some people may choose to be paid maybe on monthly basis. It's called periodic. Then the first 25,000 will be exempted. 25,000 per month is 300,000. So A, as a contributor, you say contributions to a registered pension scheme. Contributions to a registered pension scheme. Contributions to a registered pension scheme are allowable deductions. Are allowable deductions against taxable income. Contributions to a registered pension scheme are allowable deductions against taxable income, are allowable deductions against taxable income up to a maximum of 20,000 shillings per month, up to a maximum of 20,000 shillings per month, up to a maximum of 20,000 shillings per month, in brackets 240,000 shillings per annum, in brackets 240,000 shillings per annum, in brackets 240,000 shillings per annum. Then B, on retirement, so you say, in case of lump sum pension, the first 600,000 shillings, received, is exempted from taxation. However, where pension is received in periodic, amounts, the first 25,000 shillings, the first 25,000 shillings, the first 25,000 shillings per month, or in bracket 300,000 shillings per annum. 300,000 shillings per annum is exempted from taxation. Is exempted from taxation. Then number 6, encouragement of citizens. Encouragement of citizens to acquire residential property. 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 So again, we have allowable deductions in case a person acquires a personal mortgage. A personal mortgage is a loan that enables you to buy a house. However, I'll be quick to say it's also very expensive. A mortgage is very, very expensive, and you need to have a lot of resources. I know banks will understand your salary may not accommodate, but if you have other sources, so that your account reflects some good, maybe activity, the banks could still give you a mortgage, but it's not easy. So mortgages, you find a person pays monthly upwards of 80,000. With inflation now, it would even reach 90,000. Then you are going to pay for the next 15 to 20 years. You need a lot of grace. Lots of grace, because a mistake can happen. You can lose your job, something can happen, COVID might happen, you know, you don't have a job for life. Then what do? And banks will not understand, I can assure you. They will not understand. They'll put your house on auction at the slightest instant, at all keep plead on your knees, and everything you have paid in the past will be forgotten. But I'm not discouraging you. It has worked for some people. I know of a friend that has acquired 3 houses in 3 different locations using mortgage, but maybe it's different because he works at the center bank. So the income, maybe it's not a good example. He has been able to acquire 3 properties. Analipa anamaliza anaingia ingine. Squeeze sijui sasa anakaa wapi, his 3rd or 4th property. Sasa anakaa, mahali anakaa sasa, ameacquire. Okay, so there's mortgage, which could be expensive for some people. Then you can also join a registered home ownership savings plan with a recognized institution such as Housing Finance Corporation of Kenya. So with this one, you make monthly savings for 10 years. Then they give you plus interest. Then unajipanga, vile unaweza nunua plot ujenge. Sasa, you are 10 years, the amount you'll be paying or you'll be contributing or saving to an institution like Housing Finance Corporation, again, will be allowable as a deduction, but the maximum is 8,000. 8,000 shillings per month or 96,000 shillings per year. So encouragement of citizens to acquire residential property, we say, the interest paid on a personal mortgage. The interest paid on a personal mortgage, used to purchase, a residential property, the interest paid on a personal mortgage, used to purchase a residential property, is allowable deduction, subject to a maximum of 25,000 shillings. Is allowable deduction subject to a maximum of 25,000 shillings per month. Is allowable deduction subject to a maximum of 25,000 shillings per month. Or in brackets, 300,000 shillings per annum. 300,000 shillings per annum. 300,000 shillings per annum Then B, contributions to a registered home ownership savings plan. Contributions to a registered home ownership savings plan, or RHOSP. Contributions to a registered home ownership savings plan, RHOSP, is allowable as a deduction, from taxable income, is allowable as a deduction from taxable income, is allowable as a deduction from taxable income up to a maximum of 8,000 shillings, up to a maximum of 8,000 shillings per month, up to a maximum of 8,000 shillings per month, or in brackets, 96,000 shillings per annum. 96,000 shillings per annum. Then you put number 7 to be discussed tomorrow. Number 7, taxes are used to maintain economic stability. Taxes are used to maintain economic stability. Taxes are used to maintain economic stability in the country. Taxes are used to maintain economic stability in the country. So we'll discuss from that point. Any question? All right, so we stop there. So we can pick from there tomorrow. Oh, you have the register there?
Yes.
Oh, I almost forgot. You need to.